Hello, children. Have you ever just been playing a video game and suddenly you're crossing an ocean to Demon Island? A turtle brought you to an underwater castle? Donated a hat to a stone statue? You may or may not know, but those are references. Specifically references to Japanese folklore. And today, I'm going to be reading you 7 different ancient folklore stories that all Japanese people are familiar with so you can start recognizing references to your everyday Japanese media. Before I start, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment video ideas so I'll never run out of content. Alright, let's do this. We'll start with the most famous folklore to the more or less forgettable folklore. Today, starting with Momotaro. Mukashi mukashi aru tokoro ni. There was a grandma and a grandpa just living in the forest, not a care in the world, when all of a sudden a giant Nemanosaurus peach was just floating by the river. The grandma was like, "Oh, how delightful," and brought the peach back home to eat it. The grandpa sliced it open, and lo and behold, there was a fucking baby inside. Now most people seeing this would be freaking out naturally, but the old couple were just nonchalant about the situation. She said, "Oh, how delightful, let's name the baby Momotaro, because the baby came from a peach, duh." Nothing weird about this. Imagine naming a child from where it came from. Boxon, C-Sectiona, Pussy O'Reilly. A few days passed and Momotaro turned into a strong, healthy boy. Must be them peach genes, right? Anyways, one day Momotaro was just chopping trees, minding his own business, when all of a sudden he got news that the neighboring village was ransacked by the demon people, and their home was potentially next. And then Momotaro, for some reason, went to Grammy and Grampy, was like, "Mom, Dad, I gotta go avenge the village people. I have to cross the ocean to slaughter demons. It is my destiny." And for some reason, Grammy was like, "Oh, how delightful. Here's a sack of kibirango for the trip. Make sure you leave no survivors." And then off he went. So far, amazing story, right? Act 2. Momotaro is walking towards Demon Island, not a care in the world, when suddenly a dog appeared. "Yo, Peach Lad, I heard you're going to Demon Island to cap them bloods. I'm offering to exchange my services for a single kibirango. So what do you say, homie?" And bam, dog joined the party. Next, Momotaro encountered a monkey who said the same thing. Bam, monkey joined the party. And finally, Momotaro encountered a pheasant. You probably get the idea. Bam, pheasant joined the party. Alright, now the 4 heroes eventually made their way to Onigashima, where they faced demons. Now depending on who you ask, the story either goes A. The demons were so frightened of their presence that they surrendered their treasures and promised not to return. Or B. Momotaro fucking slaughtered them all. Personally, I like B. Let's go with B today. Eventually, Momotaro returned with all the previously plundered goods and returned them back to the people. And Momotaro and his gang of Crips lived happily ever after. Momotaro did all of that in like a month. Alright, next is the story of Urashima Taro. Mukashi mukashi aru tokoro ni. There was a young guy by the ocean fishing. When at the corner of his eye, he spotted some asshole children beating up a poor turtle. Urashima Taro naturally was like, "What the hell are you kids doing? Step the fuck away from the turtle." And then he saved the poor thing. The turtle, being thankful, invited Urashima Taro to an underwater castle located at the bottom of the sea, and he accepts, riding the turtle all the way down to the abyss. Act 2. Urashima Taro meets up with the queen. The queen was thankful of Urashima Taro for saving a turtle who in some other variations of the story is the pet of the queen, is the queen but in disguise, or just a regular turtle. The queen invites him to stay for eternity because he has a good soul or something, but he was like, "Sorry, I love to, but I need to return a copy of the Green Mile back to Blockbuster. Also, I think I left the lights on." The queen understands, but before he left, she gave him a present. A certain black box with a mystery inside. A mystery box. When Urashima Taro returned to the surface, guess fucking what? It's 300 years into the future, and Blockbuster no longer exists. And also his house. Urashima is homeless now. Well, that's unfortunate. I don't know what's in the box though. And when he opened the box, a puff of smoke came out of it, and Urashima Taro turned into an old man. The end. That's it. I'm pretty sure the story is a metaphor to enjoy the time you got left or don't get into strangers' vans, but that is so overshadowed by how depressing the story is. Alright, next story is about Kasa Jizo. Mukashi mukashi aru tokoro ni. There was an old merchant just trying to make a living with his wife. They're kind of poor and it's the harshest winter yet. It was another poor day and the merchant went off to the city to start his day as a merchant. On the way down, he greets 6 Jizo statues with snow building up on their heads. He brushed the snow off and was like, "Wish I could help you, but I'm kind of poor, sorry." I went to the city to sell coal. Spoiler alert, not a successful day. He was about to pack up when an even poorer guy was like, "Please sir, I need coal to live through the night. Will you trade your coal for these 5 hats?" The poor merchant was nice enough to do the trade, and now he's the proud owner of 6 hats, including the one he's wearing. A net loss, basically. On the way back to his house, he saw the 6 Jizo statues again, with even more snow building up on their heads. The poor merchant felt kind of bad, remembered his surplus of hats, and decided to donate them to the statues. Oh wait, there's one statue left over. Fuck. Might as well donate the hat that I'm wearing. There, now no one's left out. The man went back to his house, his wife being understanding, which is nice, and went to bed hungry. That night, something magical happened. The 6 statues visited the merchant with gifts of food and gold and left with only footprints as trace. And the merchant lived happily ever after, landing on Forbes billionaire list of 1824. The end. Was a good story, right? I like these feel-good stories. Speaking of not, here's The Grateful Crane. Mukashi Mukashi our Tokoro ni. There was a merchant not too poor, trying to make a living selling felt. When one day, on his way to the city, he saw a crane trapped in a crane trap. He felt kind of bad for the bird, so he released it, starving a family in the process, I think, and went back to traveling. The very next day, he heard a knock at his door. It was a woman who needed a place to stay for the night. Nice, right? They lived together since. Few moons passed, and she was like, I'm pretty good at making threads. Can you make me a thread making device so I can make threads? Nice, I'm going to make threads now, but for the love of God, you can't look at me while I do it. So please be in the other room while I make some. The thread she made was top tier and it sold like hotcakes. He was getting rich off the entire thing. Months passed and he got a little curious about what's happening in the other room. One day, he decided to take a peek, and lo and behold, it was the crane he saved that fateful day making the threads. Who would have guessed? It's not like the title of the story is The Grateful Crane. The crane was like, damn, you know my secret now. I'm sorry, but I gotta go. And then she left, leaving the dude heartbroken. The end. That's it. Alright, next the story is about Kintaro. It's a story about a kid named Kintaro, or Sakata Kintoki, who likes to challenge animals into a fight, like a rabbit in a race, a frog to a jumping contest, a turtle to a swimming contest, etc. One day, Kintaro was kind of bored of challenging these small forest creatures and wanted a real challenge. And then an owl said, oh yeah, if you want a real challenge, you should challenge a bear in a wrestling competition, haha. And then Kintaro challenged the bear into a fight, which he won because he's the son of a dragon or something. And all's good. One day a bridge collapsed and so Kintaro chopped a tree to use as a bridge. He then also challenged real human adults into a fight and won. The emperor hearing this was like, that kid's strong, let's turn him into a samurai. And now Kintaro is a samurai. The end. I know that was kind of anticlimactic, but anyways. Here's the story of Bunbuku Chagama. Mukashi, mukashi, aru tokoro ni. There was a priest who found a kettle on the side of the road. The priest kept it cause why not, and made the children of the temple wash the kettle so he could make some tea. The children suspected something was off. Normal kettles don't make sounds, Anyways, the priest poured in water, lighted a flame, and started to boil the water, when all of a sudden, the kettle jumped from the heat. Thinking it was a defect or something, the priest donated it to a kitchenware store, and then that very afternoon, when the store was closing up, the kettle grew a tail, 4 legs, and a tanuki head. The tanuki explained that due to tanuki magic backfiring, he was stuck as a half tanuki, half kettle hybrid, and didn't know what to do. The owner of the shop was like, oh shit, I got an idea. And from that day, the tanuki got a job dancing on a tightrope. The end. In other variations of the story, the tanuki returned to the temple to be worshipped as an immortal deity, and in others, the tanuki just straight up dies due to a fever and then remembered as a deity. Moral of the story, don't buy a used kettle. Last one for today, Hanasaka Jiisan. Mukashi, mukashi, aru tokoro. There was an old man who adopted a lone puppy who showed up on the man's house. Aw, a puppy. I'm gonna name you Shiro after your fur, the man said. A few weeks later, the puppy led the old man on top of a hill where he was telling him to dig. What did the man find, you say? A shit ton of gold. The neighbor hearing about this kidnapped the dog so he could find gold for himself. What did the neighbor find, you say? A pile of garbage. The neighbor then slaughtered the dog in anger, totally forgetting that 1. It's not his dog, 2. Murder is bad. And then it's the very next day, the old man was sad to find out his dog died of natural causes, and so he buried a sapling on the dog's grave in commemoration. 24 hours passed, and magically the sapling sprouted into a huge tree. The old man seeing this was like, oh, it's the spirit of my dog, how nice. And then he cuts down the fucking tree. He cuts down the fucking tree so he can make a mortar. The man then used the mortar to make some mochi, but then magically the mochi turned into a shit ton of gold. The neighbor, hearing about this, stole the mortar to make his own gold, but then the spirit of Shiro turned the mochi into a pile of garbage instead. The neighbor then broke the mortar in anger, forgetting that 1. It's not his mortar, and 2. It's not his mortar. When asked by the old man if he saw his mortar anywhere, the neighbor said he accidentally set it on fire. Now, if I was the old man in this scenario, I would have funky towned this dude. But the old man, being the nicest guy in the world, decided instead to just throw the ashes into the sky. And then Shiro, as a final blessing, turned the surrounding trees into cherry blossoms. The emperor, who just so happens to be there when it all happened, gave the old man a shit ton of gold for performing the miracle. The neighbor, hearing about this, grabbed some of the ashes off the floor and tried to perform the same miracle. But what happened was the ash just blew to the emperor's face. The neighbor was then executed for his accounts of treason. The end. I'm glad this story had a satisfying conclusion. You don't get endings like that often. Imagine instead of passing away, Walter White would just straight up shot in the head. Anyways, that's basically it. I hope you liked the video. If you want a part 2, make sure you like the video. The goal is 500 likes. If you have video ideas or something else, make sure you type them in the comments. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Follow your dreams. Hello? How are you? Have you been alright? Through all those lonely, 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 lonely nights. That's what I say. I tell you everything if you pick up that telephone. Yeah, yeah, yeah.